Hello, hello, hello. It is a rather cold Monday evening, and it's time to look back at UFC Vegas 88. Normally I do this on Sunday, but I was a little under the weather. Still a little under the weather. You might be able to tell it in the voice or whatever. But the worst of it is past. So let's do this. So let's quickly talk about like news from outside of this card. What's going on? Obviously, as related to this card, Mark Coleman getting a little bit of a tribute on the UFC broadcast, waking up from the coma, cross fingers, tap on wood, we'll be okay. And if you're not really familiar with that story, his parents' house caught fire. He was awoken by the dog, went in, saved his parents. Couldn't save the dog, unfortunately. R.I.P. Hammer. And is just generally a hero. So it was good to see the UFC touch on that and provide an update on that. That was good. Although the update was available via various sources on Twitter and other social media before then. So there's that. The other thing, I swear there wasn't Jose Aldo coming out of retirement, UFC 301 to fight Jonathan Martinez. Sad, because I always hate to see a guy come out of combat sports retirement, because I want to see people retire and stay retired. Stay gone. Have the financial security, have the ability to move on to the next chapter of their lives and to be happy. Now, I don't know why Aldo's coming back. Maybe it is a massive paycheck from the UFC to try to boost up a weak UFC 301. Maybe it's a mental need, an emotional, psychological need to fight. Maybe it's financial in nature in terms of he needs the money. I don't know. But very, very little of that is actually like positive. Like the only positive is like the UFC is the Krusty the Clown moment in The Simpsons where he's captured by the camp kids. Krusty, why did you turn your back on us? They drove a dump truck load of money up to my house. I'm not made of stone. That basically is like the most positive option here. Is that the UFC actually like really did come to him with an insane amount of money. And this isn't about fighting out his contract. This isn't about a psychological need to fight. This isn't about a financial need to fight. And hopefully it's not those things. But it usually is when we get into this kind of stuff. There are very, very few like MMA unretirements that wound up being like triggered simply by the UFC making an amazing offer. In fact, I can't think of one. The closest might be like Randy Couture fighting Tim Sylvia. That might be the best one. That might be the best story of a UFC unretirement. And I don't mean because he won the title, but because I do honestly get the impression that Randy Couture did not need to do that. That's the positive. All right, let's move on to the fights here. And they were not very good. UFC Vegas 88 didn't promise a lot and probably delivered a little bit more than it promised. We'll go through fight by fight, but there were at least some fairly entertaining moments in a lot of these fights. We'll start off with Marcin Tybura versus Tuivasa. Main event, heavyweight action. Tuivasa was the favorite. Didn't really understand why. Didn't really get it. Don't get me wrong, there was always a chance he was going to knock out Tybura like immediately, because that does happen. But no. He got some good stuff done. He cut up Tybura with an elbow along the hairline. Very bloody. And then Tybura got the clinch with him. And Tuivasa, foolishly, while having an opponent with double underhooks, starts throwing punches and just like going whack, 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 whack. And just gets completely taken to the ground. Gets his back taken. Gets GMP'd for a fair bit. Referee probably could have stopped it then. Wound up with a rear naked choke. That's it. There's honestly not much else to talk about when it comes to this fight. It was 4 minutes and 8 seconds of exactly what's wrong with Tai Tuivasa's game and exactly why Marcin Tybura is like limited. He's just not physical enough, realistically speaking, and he's not a particularly good striker. I don't think we learned anything from this. Well, okay, I shouldn't say learned anything, because honestly, like Tai Tuivasa again was the favorite for this fight. So if you were picking Tai Tuivasa, I hope you learned something. There's a whole conversation about like, is Tai Tuivasa UFC caliber or whatever? And like the truth is, he still is. Like, yes, he lost this fight and he's lost 4 in a row, and they haven't been close wars or anything. They have just been basically hellacious butt kickings at the hands of, let's see here, quickly refresh my memory. Tybura, Alexander Volkov, Sergey Pavlovich, and Cyril Gahn. Like, the thing is that Gahn and Pavlovich and even Volkov are like top 6 fighters in this division. And Tybura is probably top 10. And there's not really a lot of like Tybura is also like probably like, I don't know, the 3rd or 4th best grappler in the division, which is sad. So it just doesn't really mean much. It's someone was also asking like, how is Tai Tuivasa still so bad at BJJ? And he is. And it's frustrating. Don't get me wrong. It's frustrating. But there's a lot of people who are like confused by that, and I don't really get it. It's heavyweight. You don't need to be good at jiu-jitsu. Also, not for nothing, dude runs a brewery, which just came up when Tyson Pedro was talking about being broke. But like, it does suggest heavily, and this is a great point, that Tai Tuivasa is a man out there running a business. He leaves the business when it is time to prep for a fight, but that probably means that his between fight training isn't that good. It's probably like good enough to keep him on weight, and that's really about it. And it's probably why, honestly, there hasn't been any improvements to him. It's another argument for the way why fighter pay should actually be more, because I feel like a broken record because I've said this a number of times. Having a full-time fighter will lead to better fights. Will lead to not necessarily better fights, but a better fighter. They will learn things. They will close gaps. They will improve. Whereas like Tai Tuivasa is like one of like 4 owners. I think he's like 3 owners, and then there's like 3 main owners, and then there's like a number of smaller owners to his brewery. And it seems like he's probably the hands-on one actually running the damn thing. So it shouldn't all be all that surprising that he's just not actually becoming a better fighter. There you go. I also wonder if the UFC went big into like hyping up the brewery because of Tyson Pedro's like I'm broke bit from a couple weeks ago. Anyways, what's next? I've got nothing for Tai Tuivasa, honestly. I just don't know. I think he's put him in there with a fun striker, whatever. It's fine. And for Tybura, I've got Gelton Almeida. It's not a great fight because kind of like how I didn't really like the Almeida versus Blades fight. It's like Almeida versus like the few grapplers the division even has. Like, what's the point? But like, it's the only thing that fits for Tybura. Really? I don't really have a great idea what to do with Almeida either. So I guess that's the answer. But like, I'm not excited for it. Bryan Battle versus Angelosa ended in a no contest for an eye poke. Now, I do think social media was weird on this one because they're acting like Losa had absolutely nothing for Bryan Battle, which is not true. When this fight was in the pocket in like mid-range striking exchanges, Losa was doing some damage. He was landing some stuff to the body and the head. He was doing okay. Now, to be clear, I do think he was on his way to losing because if you have three distances essentially in striking. You have long range, and Battle was tuning him up there. You have medium range, which was going Battle's way, but like was competitive. And you have clinching, which Losa got the clinch, got double underhooks, and still got taken down. So the idea that the clinch was anything remotely useful to him is just wrong. And the grappling sequence, I mean, he did get up from being mounted, but realistically, that's never been a place Angelosa wants to be, realistically speaking. So, like, that doesn't feel like an option. So he was on his way to losing. I just think that it's been made into this one-sided, complete arse whooping that it wasn't necessarily. And then, you know, he goes for a takedown in the second round, gets stuffed, and then gets thumb like deep in that eyeball and says that he can't see. Fight gets waved off. Then we have the fracas afterwards where Battle is calling him basically a biatch. And then Losa doesn't like that. And he wants to scrap. And people are like, oh, now you can scrap. It's like, all right, fighters are often, not always, there are always exceptions to the rule. But if you take 100 fighters and you put them in a room, you'll learn that a lot of them are very, very thin-skinned. So I'm not surprised that he like got all worked up when he was being called scared, basically. And as for the whole, like, you know, fighters should not say that they can't see, you probably, like, that's probably correct. Like that is probably factually correct. If you want the fight to continue, you don't say that. But this is like you've just been poked in the eye. You probably can't see, or at least can't see very, very well. I think this is like something that really probably needs to be reinvestigated. Like I know that when people get poked in the eye and the eyelid does that spasm shut thing, where it's just like completely shut, there is no like 5 minutes that's going to open up. It's like, no. That's predicting an injury, or the body thinks it's an injury. And it's like, it's a muscle spasm that is not going to go away. But with the rest of this, I do actually think that realistically, you've got 5 minutes. Unless the referee comes in there and is like, or not the referee, the doctor comes in there and is like, immediately like, nothing the fighter said. No. This has to be stopped. This eye is borked, and we need to get out of here. We need to get this man to a hospital. Barring that, you should probably actually just take the 5 minutes and just, I don't know, see if it kind of returns. That is my take, but I am not a doctor. So if there's a doctor out there that wants to offer a contrary opinion on the matter, I'm very, very open to it. But like every time this comes up on like social media, we'll get some sports doctor coming in and talking about like in technical terms, like what they're looking for with the eyeball and so on. And how, yeah, sometimes there is a chance that this is just going to kind of be okay in 5 minutes. And let's handle it. Let's be cautious. Let's be careful. Let's make sure that the fighter is not seriously injured, but that we can probably continue. Anyways, do I think Losa wanted out of the fight? Not really. I just think it's a stressful situation where you're going to do some things. I mean, it's kind of like the whole Johnny Walker, where are we? We're in the desert type of thing. So I don't know. I don't really think one way or another about this. We'll probably get a rematch because it's just easy to hype because there's bad blood now. Even though the fight has like no actual intrigue. Like, you know, as much as I said Losa was more competitive than the narrative is kind of being, he was getting he was losing, and short of a knockout, I don't see how he wins that fight. That's just it. Like when your best case scenario is I don't even want to say 50-50 mid-range striking battle, because I think Battle was even winning that. When that's your best effort and it's not a winning effort, what are you going to do in a relatively short period of time? Because I imagine, you know, if they do book this rematch, it'll be pretty soon. So anyways, I didn't bother coming up with a better opponent just because I do think we'll get that rematch, even though we don't really need it. And then we get into the old man, Vince St. Preux. Vince. I will say this. There's a lot of discussion about like steroids, PEDs with this fight. And I largely agree. I largely agree. This is the best pace-wise that OSP has looked in a long time. Anyways, first round was pretty 50-50. I did it as a push. Second round, OSP. Third round, OSP. Not too much to work about here. It was a frustrating fight because both guys, whenever they would commit to throwing combinations, would have success, and then they would stop doing it. They would go back to one and done. OSP knocked down Kennedy in the third round. The third round was really good. There were people saying this was like a really, really good fight overall. The first and the second round were not good. The third round was good. They threw a combined 253 strikes in that round. Landed, quick maths in my head here, 128 between the two of them. It was pretty good, but it took to the third round to really get to that. Prior to that, it was a very, very slow burn where, again, both guys just passed up opportunities to do things. Derek Cleary appears to have been the dissenting judge. I imagine, I could be wrong, but I imagine that's going to be a first two rounds to... Oh no. Derek Cleary gave the third round. Wow, no. Two judges gave the third round to Kennedy and Zekuchu. That is wrong. Derek Cleary, did Derek Cleary know what guy was which? Because he gave the first round to OSP, which was by far the closest round. If you want like numbers to think about this, round one was 26 to 22 strikes in favor of OSP. You could easily get into like with a 4-strike differential, talking about which ones were the best ones or whatever. I thought OSP won that round, but like it's a close round. The second round was 44-28 and 73-55 in the third round for OSP. So Derek Cleary, what are you doing? What are you doing? In fact, I'm not really loving any of these scorecards. I love none of these scorecards because Adelaide Bird gave Nzechukwu the third round, but gave him the fight with rounds 1 and 2 going to OSP. And Junichiro Kamijo gave the first and the third to OSP, but the second to Kennedy. That might have been my score live, but I've rewatched the fight. Anyways, that's bad judging. The right winner won, but that's bad judging, which, to be clear, is still a problem because that bad judging is what leads to the wrong winner in future fights. There's your highlight. There's your highlight of that fight. Just terrible, terrible judging. What do I want to see for Kennedy and Nzechukwu and for OSP? I have no idea. OSP, I penciled in Ryan Spawn because I don't know. That might be fun. And for Kennedy, I penciled in Bogdan Gushkov. But like, I don't love either of those fights. Like, Kennedy is a fighter who periodically, and in most fights, will put something together that looks pretty good and then not do it. And then his corner's just yelling at him to go for it. And for OSP, he's 40 years old. Pardon me. 40 years old and like just should be done and isn't. Now talking about bad judging, we had Isaac Dalgarian versus Christian C. Rod Rodriguez. Simply put, I gave a 10-8 for all right. It's for me, it's 10-9 Dalgarian, 10-9 Dalgarian, 10-8 or 10-9 C. Rod. And then if we get into 10-8s, because I never rely on the judges to actually give them, the first and the third round become 10-8s for the respective fighters, and this should be a Dalgarian win. Now, people are arguing online that Rodriguez actually won the second round, which the judges did go with, and that's why C-Rod got the win. But like, even I, as someone who picked Christian Rodriguez to win this fight, I have to point out the simple fact here. We're trying to give Rodriguez a round where he landed 12 significant strikes to 8, got taken down 4 times, including 2 pretty much slams, was controlled for 4+ minutes. And I know Aaron Broadstetter made the argument that there were no ground strikes landed by Dalgarian. So like the whole 4 minutes of control doesn't really matter. But like, number one, he's ignoring a later point that he comes up with, which is a lot of that control was against the fence where there were strikes landed. And number two, you cannot punish someone for having control. Like, that's the thing. It's like, it seems like legitimately the people who think C-Rod won this round are basing this on the idea that Dalgarian should have done more with his control time. That he should have done more. Not that C-Rod did anything particularly good. They're, paying lip service the idea that C-Rod landed the better shots, which I don't know about that because at around the halfway mark of the round, Dalgarian lands a hook that actually staggers Rodriguez, and I thought that was the best that was the best strike of the round. That being said, I'm gonna have a hot take to follow that up. Dalgarian won, but it is probably better that he lost. What I mean by that is because regardless of whether he won or lost this fight laid bare the problems I saw coming in. In round 1, he goes ham, and he gets a 10-8 round or whatever, but he gets tired. That man is tired after round 1. Round 2, he keeps it up, but like, again, he's doing inefficient things like the slams that I think won him the round, but like, that is also what exhausted him in the third round and made the third round so bad for him because there's like various points in the third round where he is just begging not to get hit, and he gets outlanded 74-5 and 35-5 in significant strikes. Goes over 7 for takedowns, 23 seconds of control. So ironically, C-Rod winning, because it's a loss, and if Dalgarian looks at it as a loss, it is better for his development because we have countless examples throughout, not even history, just like countless examples throughout like 2023 of fighters coming into the UFC with this like, okay, you've got a nice physical skill set here, but like there's a lot of things that need to come together before you actually are going to be good. And then they win a couple of fights and it's just like, yeah, but it's the same flaws. It's the same flaws over and over and over again. And then they lose horribly. Dalgarian is that guy. There is a tremendous physicality to him. There is an excellent wrestling game to him. there is a pretty solid positional grappling game to him. More ground and pound would be nice, obviously. But like there's going for a variety of submission holds that he attempts. There is good scrambles. There is impactful takedowns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But his stand-up game is quite limited, and he does get tired. So hopefully, I'm going to go bright side here. Hopefully, the judge is doing a bad job and scoring the fight for Rodriguez. We'll have Dulgarian go back to the gym and be like, all right, I lost that one. Why did I lose that one? How can I correct that? And I want him to take like 6 months, 6 to 8 months just to train, not to prep for a specific opponent. Train, cardio, do the striking, do the things that you're going to need to make into auxiliary skills and attributes that will actually lead to being a good fighter. So like, I don't have an opponent for him because I actually legitimately, I know people like, you want a fighter to be inactive. I want a fighter who needs to improve to be inactive, to take the time to make those improvements, to learn from this loss. And I really don't know what to do with Rodriguez because at 145, well, it's not even a 145 thing because people are like, well, he needs to get back to 135. I'm like, I don't know. It's the same thing. Like he got manhandled by Raul Rosas Jr. Like he's just not that strong. Like he's just not that athletic. Like I think this is a legitimate problem that like he's a very good technical fighter. He stays calm under pressure. He is mentally very, very tough. He came back from getting beat up here to 10-8 a guy in the third round. And he has good cardio, and he's very, very tough. Like he's very durable physically, but he's just like not that athletic. So I don't know. Something like Jack Jenkins would make sense, I guess. Jack Jenkins coming off that loss to, I want to say Chepe Mariscal. So that'd be fun. But I don't know. I think that there's a very, very, very hard ceiling for. And then Macy Chiasson, rear naked choked. Penny Kianzad got takedowns more or less at will. 2 minutes and a half of top control. There was an arm bar from Kianzad. That was about it. There was not really a lot of striking going on here. A total of 6 significant strikes between the two ladies. And yeah, Chiasson got the job done. There was really no reason to pick Penny Kianzad, and I didn't really understand why this was like a relatively close fight. Like Kianzad was the underdog, plus 190 to plus 200, but like should have been more. She's lost this fight before. Chiasson is the not younger fighter because they're both 32 years old. Actually, hang on. Which one of them is actually the younger one? I'd be interested to find that out. They're the same year, but like, who is younger? Okay, Kianzad is like 4 months younger, but like Chiasson, when she beat her the first time, was a very, very raw fighter. And she still in a lot of ways is. But like, she's better now than she was. And like Kianzad, well, a little bit better, a little smoother, a little more technical deep. But like the same core like problem persists. So I didn't really understand why there was any love for Kianzad in this matchup. And Chiasson gets the win. Move on up to like Ketlin Vieira, I suppose. I do actually really like the idea of Kianzad fighting Carol Hossa. So like, at least there's that. GM3, Gerald Mershard eventually rear naked choked Brian Barberena. Barberena had his moments here, but like he's always been quite easy to take down. Well, not easy, but like, you know, reliably can be taken down. His back can be taken. And GM3 is a fantastic grappler. Choked him out through his chin and needs a beer and a nap, which is good. I've got Jun Young Park because they're very, very similar. So like GM3, Jun Young Park, and Barberena, a guy against Marc-Andre Barrio. Although Barrio may be a little bit too high up, but they do seem to be like matchmaking. Barberena is like sort of a veteran action attaché fighter. So like, yeah, go with it. Mike Davis crushed Natan Levy, and that's really all I have to say about that one. Yeah, I really got nothing. Like he knocked him down in the first round, and like it went downhill from there. Like Levy had a nice sweep in there, but that was really about it. Hit a little slam of his own, but yeah, it was bad. It was a bad moment. It was a bad moment. Mike Davis had a bunch of call-outs that I don't think are going to happen. He also does seem like a really nice guy, which might actually be a problem because I feel like he's like one of those guys who doesn't like hurting people. I got him against Faris Siam. I've got Levy against like Dana White Contender Series guys because he's not that bad, to be clear, and he's won a bunch of fights. It's just that he's so awkward that I have no faith in him to actually develop into something. Josiane Nunez versus Chelsea Chandler. I scored the fight for Chandler. I actually gave her all 3 rounds, but I think each of the judges gave 1 round to Nunez. Am I correct on that? Yeah, they're all 29-28s. 1 and 2 from Mike Bell to Chandler. 1 and 2 from... Okay, so it's the 3rd round that they gave to Josiane Nunez. I'm not going to get mad at it. Like, it's not like any moment of this fight was like Chandler dominating, realistically speaking. She stood up from Mount. They apparently landed the same number of strikes in round 3, so yeah, I guess that works. Chandler's striking is just still bad. She didn't run away. She didn't run away when hurt. That's good. Well, she also didn't get really hurt. And she did land a nice, side kick during one of the disengagements with Nunez, but, you went out there and you fought a 5'2" bantamweight. That's just all there is to it, really. I don't know. Chandler still seems... It's weird. She has some physicality. She's strong. She's big. Despite the comical moment with Norma Dumas, she seems to actually be durable, and she seems to actually be fairly mentally tough outside of that one moment. I'm still worried about that part, but, it is just one moment. And she does have I don't know, but her grappling doesn't seem nearly as good as it should. Her striking is awful. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's really, really bad. Like I said, there was one cool kick she landed. That was about it. I don't know. I think maybe getting her to a new gym that has a tradition of being able to do women's MMA would probably be a good idea. I don't even know. But this is women's bantamweight. You got to keep her around, and you got to do the things to build this division or get rid of it. I've got her against Luna Santos, and I've got Nunez with a battle with the scale because you're 5'2". Stop fighting at 135. Jafel Filo really made incredibly short work of Ode Osborne. This was actually a perfect fight. I think he didn't get hit with a significant strike. There was a pretty obvious cage grab he got away with, but I'm not going to get too angry about that, to be honest. Fio with the rear naked choke victory in the first round, 427. Got the job done. Was it actually a completely perfect fight? Let's see here. Yep. No strikes landed for Osborne. Oh, okay. 1 strike landed for Osborne. It was just not significant. What did he land? Kind of curious. I don't even remember him landing a shot, but they gave him a shot landed. They don't really break down the insignificant strikes, do they? They don't do that. Yeah, he rolled over him here. This was my I was wrong fight because I was pretty confident in Ode Osborne. I was like, Osborne's a better wrestler. He's a better striker. He's a better athlete. He'll get this done. Nope. Muhammad Mokaev fans are really happy right now because the Fio fight is now actually a bankable highlight reel for Mokaev. Next up for Fio, I've got Cody Durden, and for Osborne I've got Edgar Shirez. Danny Silva versus Josh Kulabau. This is one I'm gonna mostly just take aim at the judging for, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, all 3 judges gave Kulabau the first round, and I understand that Kulabau outlanded Silva pretty badly in that round. He outlanded him 32-12, which is a pretty big deal. But Silva did also knock his ass. They didn't give him a knockdown, but he sent him to the canvas and locked on a guillotine choke. And it was for that first minute, Kulabau looked very, very outmatched. So it's a bit weird that all 3 judges gave Kulabau that round. That was the only round McCarthy and Cleary gave him, which is weird because if you gave him the first round, I don't really know how you don't give him the second round. where he outlanded Silva 28-13 and was lighting him up on the counter. Yes, he got taken down twice, but nothing really happened with it. And it wasn't anything like Bulgarian's top control. There were, to borrow a phrase from those who scored the fight for Christian Rodriguez, Silva didn't land any strikes with his 2 minutes of control time. Yeah, I don't really get it. I don't really get how you... Basically, I look at these scorecards and I don't agree with them. I guess I agree with Sal D'Amatos to a certain extent. He gave Culibao the first and the second, which are the rounds where he outlanded him. So like he rewarded the busier fighter. I guess there's a through line there, but it was just weird that Cleary and McCarthy, who scored the fight for Silva, gave the first round to Culibao, but not the second round to Culibao, even though he was in far, far less trouble and had a similar volume advantage. I don't really understand that. He got control for more of that round. That's about it, but that control didn't lead anywhere, whereas in the first round, it did. So, ironically, while I have no problem with Danny Silva winning this fight, I think based on these scorecards, Culibao should have won. Because I think Culibao unanimously should win that second round. And if you're unanimously giving him the first round, then he won this fight. So, bad judging. Okay, so what does this really mean? I don't have a lot to talk about with the action beyond that. What I do have to talk about here is that Danny Silva does look very, very good. But he looks very, very raw. What allowed him to win this fight was the fact that as much as he was getting outlanded and countered pretty much at will by Culibao, when he stepped in and would land hard shots, when he would commit to a proper blitz or 1-2-3, 1-2 combo or whatever, he had the physicality to just push Culibao off. And particularly in the third round, Culibao started to just give him the front foot repetitively. That's a bad idea. That's a terrible idea. As soon as Culibao stopped trying to pressure him, I'm like, oh, this fight is over. Because you're not, as much as you're having success landing on him because he's a defensive blank slate as he comes forward, you are letting him land his best stuff and be really, really comfortable. He's very uncomfortable on the back foot. So my question with him remains kind of the same. As much as he went out there and he won this fight, I kind of look at it and I have to go, my guy, number one, you look really bad on the scale. But number two, what do you do when the other guy has the horsepower, the oomph, to actually fight you at volume parity? Because Culibao doesn't have that. Culibao needs volume. He doesn't really have the ability to really hurt you. So I always forget, it's Sting. It's Sting, Korean Sting. Sohu Choi as an option. Because Sohu Choi is 6 feet tall, has a longer reach than Silva, which is something he's probably not very used to. He's got a 70-inch reach at featherweight. Culibao did have a 73-inch reach, but still. He's a guy who hits hard and can possibly exchange in the pocket with Silva and maybe not give up the front foot. Culibao versus Hakeem Dawodu seems like a really fun fight. They're both on a 2-fight losing skid, and they could use a win. We've been talking about bad judging. We get to bad refereeing with Corey McKenna versus Jacqueline Amarim. McKenna, is initially looking promising. She's working her jab. She's not doing anything particularly cool, but Amarim throws a kick, gets a caught, gets taken down. McKenna's on top. Amarim goes immediately for a triangle, goes for the armbar. Referee stops the fight, Mike Beltran, and then lets it continue, which is ridiculous. Amarin keeps a hold of the arm and eventually gets a tap out. Probably got 3 submissions there. It's just weird. Amarin wants to fight in Brazil at UFC 301, which I would say you could do, but I would wait for Tisha Torres versus Tabitha Ricci to happen, and then you give her the loser of that. And for McKenna, I've got Meatball Molly, although her arm may be a little effed up. Thiago Moises just destroyed Mitch Ramirez. Not a surprise. This was a minus a 500 favorite fight. Could have been wider. Eventually, it was a low kick stoppage, basically calf kick, and then spam kicks after Ramirez falls to his butt. Mark Smith having to stop the fight. Cool. Yeah. It was a fun fight. I just don't really have much to say about it. Moises has beaten far, far better fighters. He called out I didn't make out what Jimmy called out, but there was a Jimmy called out you don't want your people fighting wrestlers. Let's get this done. He also has like a big charity thing, and he did complain about not being on the main card, but like Mitch Ramirez doesn't belong on the main card, so like it makes sense. I've got him against the winner of Hawk Perost and Jared Gordon. I've got Ramirez against Dana White Contender Series guys because while he's got like a basically decent style and whatever, and like some decent athleticism, it's a very, very thin game and it needs time to develop. And unfortunately, yeah, I think he's 31 years old. He was actually the older fighter in this fight and he has to develop. Charalampos Gregorio. I gave Gregorio the first round and then gave Anheliger the second and the third round. Anheliger just kind of outworked him. He was working behind combinations, working behind his jab, doing a good job of bringing the pressure, and just bringing like a structured game to a fight against Gregorio because Gregorio is very unstructured. It was kind of weird. Dominic Cruz was like sucking him off the whole time about how good his cardio probably is because he trains with Sarah Longer, he trains with Merab Dvalishvili, Aljamain Sterling, whatever, and then he gets tired grappling without Anheliger. Yeah, it's just the unfortunate thing about Gregorio is he came. I don't want to say he came to MMA like too late, but he certainly came to like serious training too late. He's 31 years old, made his pro debut in 2014. So he's been going at it for like 10 years, 21 years old. So like it's not too late, but like I said this in my build-up. He beat a dude who's 0-0. He lost to a dude who was 0-3. And you could be like, well, that was his second win. Let's see here. Okay. Sodik Ishmailov has a winning record after that, but he was 1-4. And then picked up 2 wins. And then like beat an 0-2 guy, beat a 2-1 guy, beat an 0-2 guy, lost to an 8-6 guy, lost to a 4-0 guy, Christian Rodriguez by stoppage, beat a 3-0 guy, beat a 2-5 guy, beat a 6-5 guy, beat an 83 guy who's just not very good, who was on the Contender Series, and I didn't really understand why. No offense to Cameron Smotherman, but my dude, you are not UFC caliber. You do not have the physicality, you do not have the prerequisite like durability. It's like this guy's a can crusher, and he's going to face off against Anheliger, who is not very athletic, probably is also not even UFC caliber, but he's tough. He's tough and durable, and a guy who's going to come up with like an actual game plan to put a pace on him. And he did, and he won that fight. And that's really all there is to that. I would like to thank everyone who made Gregorio a favor because I won a lot of money off that. Next opponents, I've got Anheliger against Brad Katona because Canada fight. And Charalampos Gregorio, you can face someone off a Dana White Contender Series because I am afraid that much like Mitch Ramirez, you're at the right place. You're at Sarah Longo. Ramirez is at John Wood, Syndicate MMA. But like you guys are in your 30s and you have incredibly thin games. And you're at weight classes that don't allow for that. You're at 155 in the case of Ramirez and 135 in the case of Gregorio. And those are just two of the deepest divisions you're ever going to find in MMA. And that's just kind of all there's to it. There you go. Check it down below for my links, my social medias, my video gaming stuff, and the Mio Discord server with the MMA simulator. I'll be running some fights on Wednesday. So get ready for that. Get ready for some fun. And we got a March Bloody Mania, which is our like Bodog, no holds barred, blood sport type event that requires people to challenge. Our people are afraid of our champions. And I will belittle them until they make that challenge.